Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. By Jackson Aurelia. Jackson Aurelia. Gonna proc it now. Gonna proc it now. Proc it Jackson Aurelia. T-Force.
Welcome to the rework of the T-Force. Now we going hard cause we bumping at the beat source. It's a 3-course dinner of dudes bringing the news and stats, interviews and casts from the pro scene. So fresh and so clean, like you're leaning with Nami in the bot lane. Keep it hot like brand, practicing his dot game. Give it to you easy like you're Resi in a bot game. Imagine Draven at prime time. Now ulti like LeBlanc can copy that 4 times, but manlier. Knock it up like now fight planning a family-er. You gotta be tuned in like Sona on the ad wall. Get on the chat call. Can a podcast really be all that? Of course. How do 4 guys make a Triforce?
Hey guys, welcome to Trinity Force Podcast. My name is Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, and I am your host for this lovely evening. You are watching or listening to episode number 254. We are your premier League of Legends podcast, and we are here to service. I'm going to say service you because that sounds like really awkward and that like starts the intro. But it's too late, I said it.
Too late.
I am joined by everybody in the cast because everyone was finally make it. Days, she's here. She looks much radiant, much better than you probably looked the last.
She got over her illness.
Yeah, I did. It took forever, but I did.
Punch is here.
Hey, everybody.
A resident ADC, the guy who's got the gong, who at the end of the show promised he will hit the gong for us.
I promise nothing.
Yes, we love the gong.
Titty bouncing DeClawd is here.
Hi, I appreciate
He did enough titty bouncing
the
on
prefix.
Monday.
Yeah.
I love trying to make you all like uncomfortable as I'm doing the intro. You're like,
You see if I can make my face red. No, close enough though.
And last and always least, Chira Jaded is here tonight.
Hey, and you'll never make me uncomfortable. I thrive on your
I know, look at that
attempts
chair.
to make me uncomfortable.
How could you be
seriously,
uncomfortable
for
when that-
anybody
Yes,
that
it's
thinks I
uncomfortable.
could even become moderately uncomfortable, look at the chair that I'm sitting in.
I'm looking at it. I don't know what to. I don't know. What to
It's
say
great.
about
You know what? I can even recline.
Great. Now you're further away from the mic. That's.
I don't know what you're talking
That's
about.
exactly what I see. So, guys, let's talk announcements real quick before we jump into patch 5.8 PBE discussion. I know we had talked about doing the ranked 5s tonight. That has been pushed back one more day just because we knew patch 5.8 was going to come out, and I really want to harp on like Black Cleaver and stuff, and I thought this would be a really good podcast to do that for. So first and foremost, please go check out Teespring, teespring.com/TForcePoppy. By the time you get this podcast, it'll be 3 days left. And if I bring up the link right now, we are at 28 shirts. It's loading. Yes, 28 sold of 50. So if we sell, what is that, 12 more t-shirts? Did I get that right? No.
22.
22 more t-shirts, because 12 is 40, 22 is
Because
50.
math's really hard.
Boom! If we sell 22 more
podcast.
We don't
t-shirts,
talk math on
Optimus
this
Tom, never. The Optimus Tom of the LCS Rundown will stream Poppy for the entire day. Now, those of you may not know who Optimus Tom is. He hates Poppy, and that's why this shirt is hilarious. So let's get 50 shirts sold. 51, I'll join him, do Frozen Mallet the entire time. And as we continue, we'll do some, really cool. We'll give back to the community in ways, as long as we're selling more and more t-shirts so that we can, we can give back to you. Other than that, guys, go check out trinityforcepodcast.com. I'm going to call it like the quarter version of the new site. It's like
The beta version?
it's not even a beta because that's not how the new site's going to look at all. Like I know what the new site's going to look like, and it's getting there. We're like 3 weeks behind schedule, unfortunately, because of some personal issues with the community site. So we launched a interim website that gives you all the information about Battle Arena, gives you all the information about streaming schedules, gives you a feed on the front page based on time, so you always see the latest podcast on the top, and it also has the 4 Awards podcast on it now, so that you have everything that you need right there. As long as social media, iTunes, all that good stuff is out there. So guys, trinityforcepodcast.com. Please go check that out for me. Other than that, I don't think I have any announcements. I think it's like for the first week that like announcements are
So short.
so short.
Concise?
That's fine. Let's move right into talking about Black Cleaver.
Black Cleaver. All right, so guys, patch 5.8 is going to hit. It's not going to hit this week. Riot already came out and said not going to hit this week. Some issues, but that means it's going to hit very shortly. And when it hits, we want you to be ready for it and know what's going to come into that patch, rather than being blindsided by it. By some of you probably were hit by 5.7. So we're going to talk about what's on the PBE right now. And before we talk about it, I do want to mention that this is all tentative. Some of this could change before patch 5.8 hit. Some of it could be removed. Some of it could just never make it live. So what we
PBE
say,
right now, so
so what we say is
what we
not
know.
final. It's just what we know. And so, yeah, we're going to go through it. What I wanted to start with was actually talking about the new Blade of the Ruin King, because I think not Blade of the Ruin King, excuse me, Black Cleaver. I want to talk about Black Cleaver, then go Blade of the Ruin King and do Recurve Bow and stuff, because it's a pretty big change to this item that is coming out right now. And those of you who aren't aware, it is now Black Cleaver on live right now builds out of Brutalizer. And they are changing that. So now it builds out of Phage and Kindle Gem. So no longer has that early Brutalizer, portion to it. So the recipe is Phage plus Kindle Gem plus 825 gold. It costs 3,000 gold total. It gives you 400 HP, 40 AD, 20% CDR. It has a unique passive where dealing physical damage to an enemy champion cleaves them, reducing their armor by 5% for 6 seconds. And it has a unique passive where dealing physical damage grants 20 movement speed for 2 seconds. Assists on cleave enemies or kills grant an additional 80 movement speed for 2 seconds. And it's halved for ranged champions. So it's like almost an entirely new item.
Yeah, these are pretty big changes. The ones that stand out to me right away, of course, you lose the current on live. It has 10 flat armor pen, which is nice as far as things, the way things calculate. And then, but the max you can get is 20%. So it had a little bit of a blend of the two, which is kind of nice. Now they're just putting all the chips into the percent armor reduction and upping it a little bit, so it's 30% armor reduction when fully stacked. So that stands out to me. The health is better. The attack damage is slightly worse, and that's pretty much the item, other than it gives you the Phage bonuses, which are kind of nice. So if you just look at that, you're like, okay, that's kind of cool. But like Adam said, it doesn't build out a Brutalizer anymore, and Brutalizer is such an awesome item.
Especially when you can sit on it forever.
I know. It gives you those spikes. It gives you a real nice spike on the champions who would buy it.
What is it? It's 13. Is it elite gold for Brutalizer? Or is that
it
what
is? It is. Yes, it's elite gold.
Okay, so the difference here is elite gold. You're spending a little more to get Brutalizer, but when you pick up Brutalizer over Phage, you're getting AD, which you get out of Phage, but you're also getting armor penetration and cooldown reduction. Phage doesn't give that to you right now. Phage just gives you the health, gives you flat health, gives you AD, and gives you a passive which allows you to move more quickly every time you auto attack. So,
and also think about the people that are buying Brutalizer. They're buying, it's like 80 casters, right? They're taking advantage of the flat armor penetration early to do maximize damage and the cooldown reduction to cast more spells. So the people that were buying Brutalizer, these 80 spellcasters, they're gonna look at this new Black Cleaver and say, well, wait a second, Phage doesn't really help me out here.
Right.
Well, you know what I see what I see now for champions that were buying Warrior Enchant before the Cinder Hulk, they might go back to it so they can have their Brutalizer item and then pick this one up afterwards, perhaps. So you can sit on a Brutalizer till you turn it into that and then sit on a Phage.
Well, I looked at this item, like I was standing on my soapbox kind of yelling about it, not today, but a couple weeks ago when I saw it, and that's like, people were kind of freaking out, like, this is going to be great, mid laner's going to love this, Riven's going to love it, because it's easier to build, or, I don't remember what their reasoning was, they all just thought all these characters were going to love it, but when you step back and you think about, like everyone else said, you're losing that flat armor pen early from Brutalizer, you're also losing the CDR, unless you pick up a Kindle Gem, and Kindle Gem's only giving you life in CDR, it's not giving you, attack stats.
It's not giving you a damage spike early.
Right, so the people who are going to build this are those Cinder Hulk junglers that we see right now. Anybody can build Cinder Hulk out of the jungle. Udyr, Vi, Nocturne, everybody. All these, AD champions can build that. But this synergizes so well with Cinder Hulk as a second item that if you're ahead by a kill or two, you're probably going to want this item because it's going to it's one, going to make you tankier, it's one, going to make you stronger, two, it's going to allow you to do more damage, which again makes you stronger, and three, it synergizes with whatever team comp you may be running at the time that you decided to run Nocturne or Vi or anybody with. Because already if Vi gets ahead, she's probably building Trinity Force or Brutalizer and going straight Warrior. So you can just go straight to this item, then go back to Cinder Hulk.
If you want to bring up the fact that like a lot of junglers are going to be building this, you could almost look at this as a poor man's Trinity Force. Whereas like if you don't have the gold to necessarily go the full distance to get that Trinity Force, this is a pickup that you could get. That whereas in the past, if you were trying to get the Juggernaut, Spirit of the Ancient Golem, extra CDR or whatever, this will kind of in a way band-aid the missing CDR from a jungling item if you do end up picking up Cinder Hulk. So like,
true.
Yeah, you can still make up for that missing CDR somewhere other than getting like a Spirit Visage or a Frozen Heart. But at the same time, if you're snowballing hard enough and you're on a champion that's spamming a lot of abilities, T-Force is still probably going to be better.
Here's a bonus for players like myself who love Pantheon. Someone who thrives off of maximum AD, but needs health to get into the fight. Unlike Riven, who can kind of use her little her AD shield, which she gets based off of her AD. But Pantheon needs some actual tanky stats. And there are only 3 items that give you health and attack damage. Frozen Mallet, Trinity Force, and Black Cleaver. They're making the Black Cleaver slightly better, or actually double on health, but slightly worse on damage. I think, I don't know, aside from the build path, Black Cleaver, just looking at the item itself, is more appealing to me as on Pantheon. Champions like Pantheon. But
I like
again, that
Pantheon.
That Brutalizer path, I do like Yomu's on Pantheon as well because it's synergized with his passive.
I mean, it depends on what you need to fulfill in the team. If you need to be a bit tankier, you need to just insta-give somebody
down. Yeah, exactly. So, but I am seriously considering. I've been building Cinderhulk on Pantheon because it's awesome, and I always build tanky after one offensive item. But I might go back to my Warriors because it was kind of a teeter-totter. Like, Warriors is still awesome on Pantheon. You get the Brutalizer early, but I would get the Brutalizer anyway and build it into a Cleaver or a Ghostblade. So, I don't know. I might toy with using that Brutalizer to finish a Warrior enchant now and then finishing the Cleaver. Now, I lose the bonus like you discussed. Because it has more health, it's better for Cinderhulk junglers because of the percent bonus health. So, I lose that whole little advantage. But I don't know. I'll mess with it on PBE. I'm not too in an uproar about it. I'm not too excited about it. I'm more like, maybe this will change how I build a little bit.
Here's the crazy
I
thought.
think that the thing that we're all, and like a lot of people are just ignoring or not focusing on, is all of this move speed and sticking power that you get from this. I mean, 80 MS move speed when you get an assist. I mean, boots of swiftness give you 60 MS, and Mobies will give you 105 out of combat. So if you get an assist and then you go 80 move speed, that gives you a lot of power. Especially if you're someone like Renekton or someone where you want to get on them and you want to stick on them, this gives you a lot of ability to do that. You can stick on people without getting kited quite as much. I don't know. I think that's really important, and I think I think it's just being overlooked. And there is a soft cap on move speed, so you do get diminishing returns after a certain amount of time. But that's still going to give you the ability to think of when you have boots and you're trying to catch someone that doesn't have boots and how easy that is and how big of a difference it makes. Or if you're a person that without boots and you're like, God damn it, there's no way I'm getting out of this. Sure. Like, that's going to be huge for a lot of the bruisers that don't have the gap closer or can close the gap and then can't stick with it.
It's like a mini Jinx get excited.
With that argument, though, we need to take a step back and look at Phage, because you're going to be sitting on Phage versus Brutalizer. And are you, that your argument goes for Phage as well. Does that move speed help out Renekton more than that armor penetration does? And if we're looking at Renekton, he's got so much mobility and lockdown in his kit. My answer is no, but there might be, I really look at it as like how Cheer said, a poor man Trinity Force, something where anybody who can use that mobility but already has caked in armor pen or something in their kit, kind of like a Vi or somebody who that extra mobility allows them to use that caked in that built-in armor penetration more effectively because they're able to stick on the champion and get that third hit off or whatever it may be.
I also want to bring up that if you buy this item and Frozen Heart, that's 2 items and you've already reached the CDR cap.
True.
So
without having any extra
without having any in your build.
Yeah,
exactly. You could remove that CDR from your build if you want to. Again, until I see this
Maybe
item
put a flat
being
armor pen in there.
That's true. You could actually
Swap
band-aid the missing Brutalizer with a little bit of.
That's a good point.
Armor pen, but 20% CDR is a lot of CDR.
It
so
is a
I mean,
ton of CDR.
So that was. For me, at least as a jungler, that was the thing with the tanky item portion of a jungling item that was missing is the CDR. Like, I really missed that from the old Spirit of the Ancient Golem sort of playstyle. But this item kind of fixes that a little bit. Now, the other thing too, if you can get a kill early and you don't necessarily need to rush that jungling item, you can pick up a Phage and sort of get extra damage, a little bit of extra tankiness. And if you're playing a character like Skarner or Udyr or somebody who already has a semi, okay speed boost with an ability popping. Out of the jungle, having that extra move speed off of Phage can actually replace getting early boots.
You said Skarner there. Do you think this helps Skarner out a ton for solo queue? I think a lot of this is going to be for solo queue. Like, this is an item that makes or breaks anybody.
I could see.
Play.
I mean, I doubt we'll see it like crazy. I mean, you never know. I could see it synergizing really well with Skarner because if he gets those 3 auto, I mean, he's already going to get the extra move speed from it, which is nice for him to stick, and then he gets 3 auto attacks and he stuns somebody, so he can continuously get off more and more potential procs of Black Cleaver. But it's just, I was using him as an example because he already has some movement speed baked into his kit from an ability that he uses. So like the issue with getting a Phage first is that you don't get that movement speed until you get up to somebody, but once you start auto attacking them, if they only have boots, you still have the same, if not more, movement speed than they do anyway. So like you're still able to chase them down if they're running away from you. Plus you have the extra damage and extra health on top of it without necessarily having to, purchase something else that might not give you those stats.
But if you're playing top laner, you don't need the extra 10% because you should be buying Banner Command anyway.
I do like I like an item like Brutalizer that you can sit on forever, but people forget that you can do the same thing with the Kindle gem as well. And that even harks back to that old buy your Dragon Balls en masse meta where you would see supports buy one, finish an item, buy another one, and just continuously abuse that CDR until they made the passive on it unique. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I want to say a way to kind of put this in perspective a little bit. Current live Black Cleaver, the Kindle gem is the health and cooldown reduction that's currently on the Black Cleaver right now. 200 health, 10% cooldown reduction. That's Black Cleaver. That's what those stats that it gives you right there, you get sitting on a Kindle gem. So I guess you can kind of get a little bit of the Black Cleaver stats early by sitting on that. But man, oh man, that Brutalizer is just so spiky. I love it. You'll get that, and then all of a sudden you just start melting faces. That's
why I like and hate this item, because I agree with everybody. I agree with everybody's here. Like, the movement speed's freaking awesome, and when you can get it on whoever you need it, the extra life, the CDR, yada yada, harp on all that. But the problem here is that now they've removed the build path for Brutalizer. Granted, a lot of people are going Youmuu's because they want that move speed, and they weren't finishing Black Cleaver because the move speed was more important and the attack speed was more important than the armor shred that you got. But you've essentially taken Brutalizer and pigeonholed people into having to finish Youmuu's for it, and now you don't have options. And that,
or Warrior Enchant, which no one gets anymore.
That just kind of rubs me a little bit the wrong way. It feels I feel like Riot needs to introduce something else for Brutalizer, because
I agree.
You don't have any choices now.
It kills the malleability of that.
Punch.
Well, I was going to say, I don't expect to see this to happen, but we're seeing tanks in the top lane take Smite for Cinderhawk. If people are desperate enough to turn that Brutalizer into something, could someone like Riven take Smite into the top lane and get a Warrior Enchant? Now, again, I don't expect that to happen, but I think it's an interesting thought. If Riven really wants that Brutalizer, I think Riven would still build Brutalizer anyways, and she doesn't really need Youmuu's. She doesn't need movement speed. But, I mean, if Warriors is good enough, maybe?
I think they'd have to buff Warriors a little bit to make Riven take
I agree.
Because Rivens they more than likely build that early. They will build a Brutalizer at some point, and a lot of them are turning it into Youmuu's because it allows you to get into the fight more quickly if you're not already in the fight to start with. So, or it allows you to get out of the fight some god awful reason you lost a fight as Riven, because Rivens don't lose team fights. Let's be honest here. It allows you to disengage as well as engage, but.
Youmuu's is still the premier Brutalizer item for me. Black Cleaver is kind of cool right now. It's neat for those champs who can stack it really fast. But I've always preferred... I've always had to have something push me to a Brutalizer. Like, okay, we have double AD comp. Okay, Brutalizer. Okay, we have more people who can take advantage of them being debuffed in general instead of just me doing more penetration. Okay, let me get the Brutalizer instead. But normally, when I'm building selfishly, I'll just go Youmuu's.
We've seen Cinder. I don't know if we need to talk about you do more penetration.
I don't get it. Could you explain it to me?
Wow.
I don't understand.
Anyways.
I just wanted to kill the conversation.
Well, thanks.
You did it.
You do all the time, Adam. You don't have to try hard for that.
The best. All right. I will say with the whole brutalizer stuff, and I mean we may not want to transition into the Blade of the Rune King thing yet, but I kind of find it funny that they take away the malleability of brutalizer building into other items that you can kind of choose from, but they take the item that pretty much was sort of useless to just buy, which was Recurve Bow, and made it
They
better.
fixed it.
They fixed it.
Yeah,
They did.
they made it good.
I hope this sticks from the PBE,
So
and I'm pretty
now-
sure.
Okay, first I'm going to read off what Recurve Bow is going to do, and I'm going to express my concern, not with the way the item is being built, but with the public perception, because I don't think enough people are going to realize what happened to Recurve Bow. Because Recurve Bow used to be you built it. You spent 1,100 gold and you built it, right? Like, and that's what made
gold.
Wits End and what 1,000? What was 1,000?
900 gold.
900 gold. Sorry,
For Recurve
it's
Bow.
1,100 now.
It started
Still a
out
good
as
game,
like
Adam.
1050, and then
200 more.
Sorry,
Yeah.
that's because they added something to it to make it a little more expensive. Most people saw it. I gained attack speed. That's all you got with Recurve Bow was I gained attack speed. So no one ever wanted to buy it or sit on it. Woo! But now Recurve Bow costs 1,100 gold, and it includes a unique passive. It builds out of two daggers. So you have to have the 2 daggers, and you can make the Recurve Bow. But now it gains a unique passive, basic attack, steal, an additional 10 physical damage on hit. And my concern with this is not enough people are going to realize that Recurve Bow now adds 10 damage when you build it. So you gain 30% attack speed and an additional 10 damage on hit.
It doesn't
Which is
apply
nice
to your AD ratios, but for all intents and purposes, yes, it's.
Well,
10
think about
off.
it this way: Zeal is 20% attack speed, 10% critical strike, and then that 5% movement speed, which is nice. Zeal is a nice item to sit on, for that if you need those stats, especially as an AD carrier, right, Punch? You like getting the Zeal
Yes, I love Zeal.
into things? I know you always do. This it's the same cost, so it's your decision time when you're sitting at base. Do I get a Recurve Bow, or do I get a Zeal?
It makes Callista better. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. We're going to talk more about Recurve Bow as the item itself, but I think that the people that are going to buy it are buying it because of what it can build into, not
Right,
because of
obviously.
just the stats on the item. Just like you buy Zeo for what
Like
Zeo
Callista, going Hurricane, etc.
and you can actually, buy this in pieces now rather than just having to upfront
Yes.
throw down money, which was an issue in
huge.
the past. Because how many times
Have we screamed about how items need
it's a step build.
items?
Yep. Which is great because now it used to be one of those things that if you had a certain amount of money, you might stay and lane a little bit more so you could finish that BF sword, which I still think is going to be a priority. But let's say that now if you go back and you finish that BF sword and you have to back again right afterwards, you can pick up that extra dagger and not have to worry about missing out on that 800 other gold otherwise you would need to finish Recurve Bow. So this helps it out so much. I would say the changes and everything are nice, but just the fact that it's going to be easier to build into because you can buy it in pieces is the best change to the item.
You do kind of want to finish it as quick as you can for that extra 10 damage.
Right. I
though.
mean, it's still a significant change, but now you're not you don't have to just
you can
drop
work towards
a chunk
it
of
if
money
you
into
don't
it.
have
Right.
enough.
So
going
Hurricane gets changed by this. Basically, you just build a fuckload of daggers, and you make Hurricane. That's,
back. 4 daggers. 4 daggers. Bad. 2 rest.
It's a hurricane of daggers.
It is.
But they did change Blade of the Ruin King because Blade of the Ruin King used to build out 2 daggers. Now 2 daggers makes a Recurve Bow. So they changed
love
Blade of
this
the Ruin
change.
King that it builds out a Recurve Bow, Vamp Scepter, or Cutlass Recurve Bow into Blade of the Ruin King. And I like this change a lot too because now you don't have to get Cutlass early. Granted, a lot of people are because you get a ton of extra damage and lifesteal and everything. But
The active is great.
yeah, but this changes a lot of people
Most
for
is the
lane.
same.
I think this actually helps out a lot of Twitch and Vayne and whatnot because going right into the Recurve Bow rather than the Cutlass means you're using your passive abilities more frequently and you're getting them off more quickly.
And I don't think it's just the AD carries that always build Blade of the Ruin King. I think in this tank meta, building Blade of the Ruin King, I know I am. And seeing this change to make it easier to build, so I don't have to sit on Cutlass, 2 daggers, and wait for 900 gold to finish the fucking item. Now I can actually get, the Recurve Bow and just have that and the Cutlass. And it's it's just so much better. It frees
You've
an
gained a
item
little extra
slot.
damage
You don't have
because
to
you're
you
sitting
don't have
on
to save as much for the combined cost. And now there's that interesting dilemma that DeClawd brought up. Do I get the Cutlass first or the Recurve Bow first?
Right.
I think it's going to
Don't
be dependent on
know.
champion. It's going to be dependent on what champions, what their passive abilities or passives do. Much like Vayne. I think Vayne's going to rush for Recurve Bow over Cutlass now because it allows her to get more Ws off, and it also gives her an additional 10 damage on every basic attack.
Well, maybe. I mean, her laning phase is rough enough that she does want the lifesteal.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
needs that
The life
sustain in
steals,
order to farm the rest of the item.
that's your deciding factor.
But is the
the
life
active.
steal enough that early that it decides the difference in a fight? I understand it's what?
Oh, I mean,
5
when
to
lifesteal
10
coins were
10
good,
auto
80
attack.
carries were starting lifesteal coins for the sustain.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worthwhile to get that sustain early if you need it. If you're winning the lane anyways, then yeah, maybe you do take Recurve Bow.
By the way, just a fun fact: the Elixir of Wrath is pretty much built with a Cutlass, only a little bit better lifesteal. It doesn't have the active,
Did they change
Fascinating.
it?
but you got to be level 9. So, FYI,
Level 9.
when you're thinking of whether you need the lifesteal or not.
Yeah, I'm excited for this change. If only because of it makes Blade of the Ruin King easier to build, even though it doesn't change any of the stats or the cost of the item at all.
Badger actually brings up a good point here. Why not vamp into Recurve rather than vamp into Cutlass?
You could, but I mean, if you've got the vamp,
Might
the
as well
Cutlass
go.
gives you a significant power spike when you finish it.
25 AD.
Yeah, if only for the active alone. If I had the vamp scepter already, I'd probably just finish that.
That and for the cost of finishing the Cutlass over getting the recurve, it's about the same anyway. So I mean, it really, again, that might just be champion dependent, because like a champion like Vayne, who potentially can just chase people down if they can get it, or they need a little bit of extra slow or anything like that, that could pay off a bit more than the
That little
recurve
extra
early.
attack speed, yeah, I think can help Vayne. You can
That's
argue
true,
it just
too.
help Vayne just
I mean-
as much as the extra lifesteal. I think it's 6 to 1, half a dozen, depends how the lane is going, how you're playing, and
Right.
There's so many factors into this that it's nice. It's actually a really nice change that you're allowed to have a decision on how you want to build your Blade of the Ruin King.
Yeah, I mean, you could build vamp scepter and then a dagger, and then finish Cutlass.
Right. Because if you have to back before you have 600 gold to finish your Cutlass for whatever reason, go throw a dagger. Work towards your Recurve Bow, you might as well. You're actually building towards it.
Dagger is 450 and longsword is 450. So what do you want?
Longshort
No,
360.
no.
Or
Daggers.
360. Yeah.
What is wrong with
Daggers
you today?
450.
I don't know,
Longsword
I
is
can't do math
360.
today.
Yeah, you could go towards the rest of the Cutlass as well with the 360. So yeah, it's up to you.
I can't. This is why math is not my thing. Don't ever let me talk math or attack ranges.
I don't think you've
All
had
right.
enough to drink. I think that's your problem.
Or I may have had too much to drink. Guys, I lost a 5-gallon keg of beer tonight. I am mourning over 5 gallons of beer. Like, that's the problem.
Please excuse my
My
dear
condolences.
Adam Sogswell.
Sogswell?
What?
Oh, sorry, I assume the pen does. Math humor.
Wait, how did you lose?
You wouldn't get it, Adam.
There it is.
Good try.
All right, so here we go. Home brewing. Before we get in there, I have a keg, and for those of you who don't know how a home keg works or any keg works, there is a dip tube that goes from the top down to the very bottom, and it literally like rests just above the bottom, so you get all the beer. Like it curves, so it curves into the bottom where it dips down. And I'm a dumbass, and I put hops in the keg without them being restrained in like a bag. So what happens when hops get cold is they sink to the bottom, and then since they sink to the bottom, the dip tube pulls them up into the dip tube, and the dip tube clogs, and you can't get all those hops out of the keg once they're sunk to the bottom. So I lost 5 gallons of beer because you can't get it out of the keg. Like, there's nothing you can do with it once it's there.
Goddamn
You're
hops.
fucked.
Mistakes were made.
Yeah, so mistakes were made. I learned to put my hops in a bag and not just let them freely roam in a keg.
Gotta control those hops, man.
Well,
They're so
I know
treacherous.
everybody, dude. I'm gonna create a home brewing podcast
Listen,
because
no.
I'd sit here the entire time with a giant smile on my face, fucking talking about it.
I don't think anyone would listen to it after you telling us you just fucked it all up.
That's a good point. I would,
We're just talking about it.
Adam, I would not
no.
start with that story. That'd be
No, I would.
That'd be
I
bad.
would. I'd say, okay, you can call it something like "Learn from My Mistakes" home brewing podcast. You'd have tons of content.
Oh,
All right.
All right, may have had too much to drink.
All right.
All right, may have had too much to drink. Guys, I have a keg, and for those of you who don't know how a keg works, there is a dip tube that goes from the top down to the very bottom, and it literally like rests just above the bottom, so you get all the beer. Like, Well, let's look at some more of these patch notes. We've already talked about Recurve Bow. We talked about Black Cleaver. Hurricane, we should probably just slightly touch on that because we said it's a hurricane of daggers that it builds out of because it's 4 daggers to build it plus some extra gold. But the passive on that has changed. Actually, I want to talk about Wits End too because I'm kind of a little upset about Wits End. That's the unique passive. The bolts now deal Bolts now deal 0.5 AD. Rather than 10 plus 0.5 AD.
Right.
The additional bolts do. But there's a new unique passive where basic attacks deal additional 10. So your basic attack on the target deals an additional 10 damage. But the bolts...
Taken from the Recurve Bow.
Taken from the Recurve Bow, correct. But the bolts now deal 0.5 AD. Just a flat 0.5 AD damage.
It's a wash because it was 10 plus 0.5.
Well,
now they just took the 10 from the Recurve Bow and put it as a unique passive on the item.
They refocused it from overall over everybody to whoever you're targeting.
Although, does that unique passive apply to the bolts? And I guess it would. It's because the unique passive says basic attacks, additional 10 physical damage
does.
per hit.
No, it doesn't.
I think the basic attack means like who you're actually right-clicking.
But don't basic attack modifiers carry over to the bolts?
On hit effects carry over to the bolts.
On hits.
And only some on hit effects do, because Vayne's
that's a good point, Punch, because
W does not.
Is kind of an on-hit effect, isn't it?
No, it's
on
the way I read it, and I agree with Days here, it's whoever you're attacking, you get the plus 10, and then the bolts that shoot out get the 0.5 AD. That's how they're wording it.
It just seems strange that they would remove the 10 damage from the bolts. Why would they do that?
I don't think so. I think the way it is, I think it's an on-hit effect because it's on hit. It's 10 damage on hit on basic attack. So I think it's a wash, like Punch was saying. I think that's what it's going to turn out to be.
You think it's still?
I could see either way.
You still think it adds the 10 to each of the bolts?
Do you guys want to take bets on this?
I didn't at first. At first, the way I read it, I thought, okay, they're taking the power from the AoE and then putting that 10 on your target for basic attacks. But then you read Runaan's Hurricane, these bolts apply on-hit effects. That's an on-hit effect, isn't it? They does 10 extra damage per basic attack per hit. That's an on-hit effect.
I guess I can see it either way.
So it applies them. So if you have a Wits End and a Hurricane, are you doing the Wits End damage to the AoE people?
See, the thing is, I say it says
if it does, then this will.
Are the bolts considered basic attacks? I don't think the bolts are considered basic attacks.
No, but they apply on-hit effects. They're not considered basic attacks.
It doesn't say that it applies an on-hit effect. It says that it basic attacks deal an additional 10 physical damage on hit. It doesn't say it adds an on-hit effect.
No, I'm looking at current live description of Runaan's Hurricane. The live description has these bolts apply on-hit effects.
Right, and it says that in these notes too. But if you look at the new unique passive, it doesn't say that the unique passive is an on-hit effect. It just says that it adds an additional 10 physical damage on hit. It doesn't say that the passive itself is an on-hit effect.
Right, but then you read Wits End's unique passive. Basic attacks deal 42 bonus magic damage on hit.
I'm going to say because it says on hit, it's most likely an on-hit effect.
Yeah.
I'm going to go that far because I don't feel like that's out of the realm of reason.
Right, if you just look at it.
Okay, so it will apply lifesteal in most item on-hit effects. The effect does not apply in abilities which apply on-hit effects. On next attack, effects will only be applied to the primary target.
Well, that's on next attack, right.
Correct. I'm reading how it works, so that's why I don't think it's... I think it's kind of like...
We'll see.
To it.
We're just spitballing here, but we'll see when they release it.
I had to read through that. I try to get that as fast as I could. And I'm sitting here at the stupid page.
It's one of two scenarios: a wash, like Punch was saying, or like Days and Adam are saying, it concentrates on your target.
But if Punch is right, then technically wouldn't this be a slight buff to the item? Because,
yeah, actually, I think you're right.
Yeah, because now it applies that 10 damage onto the actual auto attack and not just the bolt. So if Punch is right, it's technically a small buff to the item. Mm-hmm. If Adam and I are right, then all it does is it switches and makes your auto attacks more focused. Right. And then your bolts do less individually. So it's just a matter of which one.
I guess we'll just have to test it out and go see. Well, I'm sure that we can devise a plan.
I'm not kidding. You guys should take bets. I'll sit here and
Is
I'll
it on the
like,
PBE? right now?
I don't care.
Yeah,
about
Be
no,
the
it's on
bookie.
PBE.
Let's go.
We're talking.
I'm already
PBE
bored
notes.
of this conversation, and I brought it up.
Okay, let's talk about Wits End real quick because I'm actually a little mad with the way Wits End is being treated and all this. Wits End total cost has been unchanged, but the recipe price has been adjusted. They don't actually have Surrender at 20 doesn't list the values, but I think the combined cost has been lessened. But because the Hurricane has gone up 200 gold, the combined cost has probably been dropped by 200 gold. But my problem with this is nothing else in Wits End changed. So you get 10 damage out of the Hurricane, and then when you upgrade to Wits End, you're only getting an extra 32 damage, where before you got an additional 42 damage.
Out of nowhere.
But if you wanted the extra damage, shouldn't you have to pay for it in the item combined cost?
Right. But that's why I'm saying, like, you gain additional 32 damage because you're getting 10 up front with the Hurricane, but
The Recurve Bow.
with the Recurve Bow, sorry. It's really, this is a non-issue. Before you got such a big power spike with Wits End, and now you're getting little baby power spikes.
All right.
Thing.
Well,
My issue with that is how sad is it that they changed up Black Cleaver and some of the other stuff with items that build out of Recurve Bow, but like Wits End, which has kind of been the long forgotten item that it is, remains in the almost same spot that it was.
Yeah.
I see what Adam's saying, because you get that 10 on your Recurve Bow, which is exciting. It's like, okay, I get my 10 damage on hit. I didn't get that before. It's great. Before, you would get that excitement fully in your Wits End once you finally purchased it. This just helps you get a little bit more early power if you're going towards the Wits End.
Well, one reason.
And then when you buy it, it's the same.
One reason people were scared off of Wits End is because of the Recurve Bow.
Exactly.
They don't want to save up the 900
build
gold
pack.
to get that piece of crap item.
Right.
So now that it's easier to build and you get a bonus for finishing it, maybe, I don't think we will, but maybe we'll see more Wits End. For the whole, 3 characters that can use it.
I can't imagine 10 gold changes it all that much.
It'll still be Bork
Or 10,
over it.
10 damage.
Yeah, I agree.
That much.
We'll just go Bork instead.
You know what's funny? That's a really good topic you brought up, because I was actually talking to Dom about that today. We both agreed that Bork is the problem right now. Bork is the reason that Wits End is broken, because because if you are sitting on those items, you might as well go Blade of the Ruin King because of the active that Blade of the Ruin King gives. Not to mention the passive on it. The passive is kind of negligible when you have Wits End, because Wits End could do just as much damage passively. Potentially could do just as much damage. We won't get into semantics about how and where, but it's the active on Blade of the Ruin King that makes that item so much better than Wits End. And if now does that mean Wits End needs to have a step item and have some kind of active where it automatically steals magic resist or something to make that item comparable to Blade of the Ruin King, or does that item need to have some kind of different build path to make it good?
I just don't think Wits End's got a good role. It's just an odd hodgepodge of stats that who's supposed to build it? Bruisers, they're fighting magic damage, but the purpose of magic damage, or most magic damage carries do burst damage up front.
Dorky.
So stacking magic resist over time with attack speed, it just doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah, stack stealing magic resist, yeah. And
I like the fact that it steals magic resist so that you can do more magic damage, but there's just so many niche champions that could use that between Warwick and Udi are the only 2 champions I can pick off the top of my head that would really want this item, because when we saw Warwick in the top lane, he used to rush Wits End.
Yeah. Warwick is the only one I can think of that I use with Wits End.
Even still currently, there's items that will almost fulfill the exact same role, but they're slightly different. So if you're going... Yeah, the Hex Drinker is a giant one, especially when you're dealing with so many burst mages that can completely save your life in certain situations that you don't necessarily even have to build up to the magic resist or the soak it's going to give you. You just buy the item and then you get a flat shield when they get you that low.
That's a good point, Chira. Hex Drinker plus Recurve Bow, new Wits End, with a little AD added on there.
It would make that item crazy.
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't touch Wits End just because they are going to rework it in the future.
Yeah.
And they just had
Could
a
be,
lot of other
They've done
things
that
going on. I wouldn't be entirely surprised just because it is, it's a unique item and it's a fun item in theory, but it hasn't been seen its
as much, and I agree with that too, but as much as you would think that, because they've talked about reworking it in the past, I would have expected them to focus more on Wits End currently than changing Black Cleaver up.
But I feel like Black Cleaver is more relevant right now. So they're going to target...
That's fine, but
Yeah,
that change came out of nowhere, whereas...
How many times has that happened, though? Like, we suddenly get Cinder Hulk out of nowhere.
Right.
I mean, I think part of the change for Black Cleaver and the priority for it was because of the meta and because of tanks. And Black Cleaver is supposedly something that bruisers can use to take out the armor of tanks. But we'll see if it actually works out that way.
Well, Black Cleaver is being built by those people who were building Brutalizer, who were needed to snowball a little more into that mid game or into the late mid game when they kind of started to fall off if they weren't like increasingly fed. So
I'm waiting for him to bring back the old Blood Razor build with the crazy
Devour?
on hit. No. Well, I mean, it is kind of what the Devourer is now, but if anybody remembers like Kitei's Blood Razor from way back in the day when people would be getting that on Kog'Maw and
Madrid's Blood Razor,
it's been a multitude of different Blood Razors over the years.
Well, let's talk about some of these champion changes because there's some interesting champion changes coming here to the PBE. We've pretty much gone over it. Devourer is being changed, by the way. That it used to build out of just 2 daggers and now builds out of Recurve Bow again. And pretty much anything that had 2 daggers on it is Recurve Bow.
Total cost the same for this one too.
But that means it also is gaining some. You'll get a little extra damage out of the jungle. Were people really building Devourer? Probably not that often. I've seen it here and there. But
I've seen a little bit of Devour, but it's always on people that were using it in kind of silly situations that I almost feel like they were building it because they didn't know what the current state of the game was and they didn't really have an understanding of what they were doing rather than knowing what Devourer did and then taking advantage of Devourer's power in the late game.
Right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about some champions now because we're not going to talk about the Rise gameplay rework quite yet because I want to wait for that to be final before we talk about it. There's just too many ifs, ands, and buts about that build that it's going to change. We're going to talk about Yasuo. We're going to go from the bottom up because that's where I happen to be, so we're going to go backwards for once. Yasuo is being changed. The Way of the Wanderer passive flow capacity has been increased by 40, level 1 up to 100 from 60. So the level 1 has 100 rather than 60.
It means a bigger shield?
Bigger shield.
But
does it take longer to build too?
It doesn't actually say.
I would think so. Yeah, because it's the capacity is increased, not the rate.
Right. Yeah.
Well, bigger shield, longer to fill. Bam.
But that's great because Yasuo doesn't win any lanes right now. Yasuo gets just train wrecked by a lot of people.
What this is going to do is help his trade potential if he can build the shield up to that point, but at the same time, it's still going to give you a window to be able to go in on Yasuo if his shield's not close to being up.
Right. Be prepared to go in if you have your shield full.
This is helpful for him, but at the same time, it still gives the other person like a window to outplay if they're paying attention.
Right. The way I always play against Yasuo, I always auto-attack him to get that shield off before I decide to do anything, to trade. But good Yasuos will take that auto-attack and then go ham on me with my mage mid or whatever I'm playing. So, it makes it so that when you do have that shield on you, it's better. So you should probably go in.
Right. Yeah. No, you got that right. So we'll keep moving on up here. Sion, he had a change on the PBE. Sion's Soul Furnace is W. HP scaling on the shield reduced to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% from 10% at all levels. Soul Furnace. Reactivation time increased to 3 seconds from 2. So Soul Furnace. We had talked about this a few weeks ago. If you guys remember, we said that W is an alternative option to level. Dyrus actually did it this last weekend. He leveled Soul Furnace first over anything else and allowed him to stay in lane and just... But again, Dyrus, he's that kind of guy who gets picked on all the time. So if you happen to be you get picked on.
Well, and we brought that up in the past too. If you're in a situation where you're going to get focused on, and there's going to be a lot of focus put on multiple people ganking your lane or whatever, having that little bit of extra HP from the shield and all that could be extremely helpful. My only gripe with these changes is that I really like the ability for you to activate Soul Furnace and then be able to get the damage off before somebody's able to knock the shield off.
I agree.
And what this does is makes it easier for an enemy. It gives them a whole extra second to do enough damage to knock that shield off, so you can't continue to do the damage from the actual popping the ability.
Well, weren't most people popping W and then hitting Q and zoning with Q? At that
You
point?
definitely can do that.
Right, you
So
have
that way,
W
if you-
on you while you're doing it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you have the W up, and now you have less of a W up, so if somebody can outplay you by moving out your Q because you put your Q in the wrong position or you use it improperly, people can knock your shield off and actually do damage to you. So there is some now counterplay to Sion in the top lane by giving him less of a shield, by giving him less of a damage on E, by forcing you to pick what you're going to max between Q and W now. Because I don't think a lot of people are maxing E anymore, right?
I alternate between E and Q now myself when I play him. But
Does this entice you to level W second now, DeClawd?
it does, because before you had 10% of your max health added on as your bonus modifier to your shield. 30 plus 10%. Okay, as you're getting more health, as it's stacking health, it's getting stronger without you ranking it. It's still kind of getting stronger because it's a percent base, but you're 4% lower than you were before. So now I have all three to think about instead of always doing W last.
I think this was an important change though, because Sion was one of those like unkillable targets late in the game. But at the same time, he was really safe in lane also. So this gives you kind of like an opportunity to try to make some moves on him early and kind of shut him down. So I think this is
do
just
some more counterplay.
Yeah, it's just Riot's way of kind of balancing him out.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'd rather
Badger,
they do this than hit his base values, so I'm not whining.
I
As
just
a
want to bring
Sion
up something Badger said in chat, that flow should charge at the same time because it generates at 1% of his maximum flow every 46 units he travels. So since it's 1% that he's gaining, then the capacity increase shouldn't change the rate at which he hits his max flow.
Right. That makes sense.
Sorry to interrupt.
I like how you just jump
That's
right in
funny.
there and go back.
It's
No,
okay.
that's fine.
We
That's what we do here.
appreciate the clarification.
That's what we do here.
Clarification in
Yes,
chat, gotta bring
I'm
it up.
glad you
Thanks,
brought it up
Badger.
before it got too far in the background.
We got to
so.
make sure the podcast listeners know, because it's only the people in chat who would have gotten that. The few people that are listening. So let's keep going up. We're going bottom up, like I said before. Nunu, he's getting a change in the PBE. HP growth reduced to 90 from 96, and Blood Boil now includes awesome change. If Nunu targets himself, Blood Boil will try to target the nearest allied champion. Now there's no range on that. I'm assuming it's what the range of what Blood Boil would normally be, but. So to clear up something with Nunu, I think a lot of people try to jump in there and like play Nunu, but he's one of those champions where you need to have a better understanding of the jungle than the enemy does, or you need to have a team that has a better understanding of how to play as a team if you're playing him in that ranked 5 sets. So playing Nunu right now isn't like your free ticket to Elo. So with these changes, even though there are some quality of life changes, it's not one of those things where like they're telling you to jump right in and start playing him. But he is such a durable champion with that extra base life early that he can duel you in the jungle and wait for wait for your team to come and collapse and help you out. That these changes, it's one of those things that allows you a little bit more counterplay in the early levels to. What have we said? 1 life could be life or death, right? So 6 or 10 life could be the difference. I've seen how many Nunus have I seen walk out with 20 life after a trade.
It's for people like me who constantly misclick things. It helps.
The W, yeah.
Yeah.
Or there's a lot of people who just don't understand that component of it. It's like when you see Terex heal themselves and they could just get a baby heal by healing their teammate. Or when you used to see the Nunu supports in bot lane and they would like blood boil themselves and their ADC would be like, okay, what now? So it helps a lot of people who don't have like a great understanding of the champion as well and don't realize that they can do that or should be doing that.
Yep.
Especially since they made the Blood Boil change, so when you use it on somebody else, it applies to Nunu anyway. Now that it just makes it, if you use it on yourself, it does exactly what you said. It band-aids the people that don't understand otherwise, but now you can just, instead of having to move your mouse and select somebody, you could just Alt-W and immediately pop it on the closest champion to you.
That's true too, yeah.
And that's pretty much exactly the same change that Mordekaiser got with his Creeping Death. If he targets himself, it will try to target the nearest allied champion. Just like Nunu's Blood Boil.
I don't remember that change, but that sounds like a change that would have happened.
It's the one directly
No,
above
it's right.
Nunu.
We're going
on the
bottom up.
stage.
So it's
Oh,
above it.
I didn't read that yet.
Well, because the change before with Mordekaiser when he was quote unquote reworked was if you cast it on an ally, it cast it on yourself, just like Nunu's Blood Boil. So similar changes going on here, which is cool. Again,
It's just
newer
a small
players.
boost, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And if your
Go
mouse
ahead
is
and-
wherever
go ahead
you're
and
at,
Just read the Mordekaisers. I mean, I guess you already did right there.
it's that's it. And then they cast time was removed when casting on allies. You know,
Which I didn't even know there was a
I'm gonna have
cast
to roll
time.
it.
Yeah, was it just the projectile time to get there?
Yeah.
Now it spawns instantly on top of them.
I'd assume so. Yep.
So
These just make the ability as effective as possible, even if you misplay the actual ability.
Right. Or at least get them adding the extra, like the bonus use to it of it applying to somebody else and you. Now that if you apply it to yourself, it automatically looks for somebody else to continue to give
Right.
your
just-
team that bonus.
They're just going margin of error a little wider. There we go.
yeah, great. Now more people are gonna be playing these champions and failing on them. Let's talk about Kha'Zix here, because I kind of want to bring up a little Kha'Zix point that happened as well that Shiro was talking about with Fox Drops AMA, and I want to talk about his change here. So, Void Spike W, health recovered increased to 60, 85, 110, 135, 165 from 40, 70, 100, 130, 160. So, this is just the base, right? This isn't the evolved Void Spikes, because you always gain life back with Void Spikes.
Right.
So
This is a
it
nice-
makes his jungle a little better.
Yeah, it makes his jungle a tad easier, but I don't know. I don't know who all looked into Fox Drops AMA yesterday, but somebody was asking him about certain jungle champions, and he brought up a really good point on that Kha'Zix is still a really, really good champion. The thing is that now with bruisers being in both the jungle and the top lane, and tanks being in both the jungle and the top lane, it basically lowers the total amount of people on the enemy team that a Kha'Zix could just run in and destroy like he has in the past.
And then get
But
the
at this, but at the same time, Kha'Zix is still really, really broken if the other team picks squishy people. So like this just makes his early game, like his earlier clears before he can just mow through stuff, that much easier. I still really like Kha'Zix. Would I pick him into like a Sion top / Nunu jungle? No. But if the enemy team picks like insert one tank top and a carry jungler, or a carry top and a tank jungler, and there's 4 squishies in one tank, Kha'Zix should still be pretty good. So I'm happy with a little quality of life for a really annoying bug champion that can murder people if you let him get ahead.
And anything that makes the jungle smoother and feel better, I enjoy. I like.
It would also, if he's ever shows back in mid lane, it would also help his sustain in lane as well.
Well, that's exactly right, in that it's going to give a little bit of power back to his laning potential that was missing after they changed him up. So that's an extremely good point as well, Dave.
That's pretty much it for Kha'Zix.
Yeah, I thought
What's
somebody
next?
else had another thought there. Well, let's move to Jinx, because there's some pretty controversial changes between Graves and Jinx here that have hit the PBE. We'll talk about Jinx first. Super Mega Death Rocket minimum damage decreased to 25, 35, 45 from 125, 175 to 25. But they've also changed the minimum AD ratio, reduced to 0.1 bonus AD from 0.5 bonus AD. And just remember, Jinx's R damage increases as it travels. The further it travels, the more damage it does.
The first second, though.
Right. The maximum damage and
Gotta wait a whole
percent
second.
damage equal to missing health is unchanged.
Now there's a significantly sized post from Riot explaining this change on the Jinx developer, and I just saw it now, so I didn't get to read through the whole thing. But the crux of what he's saying is that the max damage is staying the same. It's just the minimum damage on R is being cut. And it
Well, I think a
always
lot
deals
of
25, 30, 35% of the target's missing health, regardless of the range.
So it's just making point blank ults that much worse.
Right. I think
Right.
it's I think it's just in terms of like what they envision the champion. Like her ult was supposed to be like a snipe, execute, and how many times did you see it being used at like
From
point
people
blank
right
range
next to
in
people.
lane? And you know it because of those issues that they had where it was doing quite a bit of damage from right next to somebody. you could use it as just a normal ability if you were doing like your rotation.
I have seen that ability used so many times from extremely short range just to cinch up a kill.
Oh yeah, and it blows them up. It's like a Graves ult, really.
Yeah,
it still has the execute mechanic though.
I've seen it in the middle of fights just because they needed to get out that extra little bit of damage to try to beat someone out. It wasn't even used as an execute. It was just because, oh, well, at least I do this much damage. So I think it's just so that they can, like, thematically get it to where they wanted that, what they wanted that to be.
That's such... am I reading this wrong in that it does just significantly less damage unless it travels?
Yeah, no, you're reading it right. That's what it is.
I want to make sure I'm not missing something.
I'd read the whole post because it does math in it.
That's what we're talking about, though. Like,
I'm trying to read the post while you guys are talking and listening at the same time, but like it does significantly less damage at level 6.
Base damage. The percentage for the execute, the 25, 30, 35 of the missing health stays.
So you can't use it,
but still,
your burst.
You're losing significant base.
Well, that's exactly right. You can't, like, say your jungler's coming into gank, the enemy laners are at half health, and you're right next to them. You wouldn't be popping that stuff right as your jungler's coming in to get that extra damage to try and get, like, cinch the kill there. It would be better off for you to let them, at this point, almost back off to their turret and aim and shoot them after they've already taken the upfront damage, and you're a distance away so that you can just kill them that way.
Like
so here's some of the numbers. Here's some of the numbers that they give in the post. Right. So at point blank, it is 180 damage nerf, but at minigun range, that falls to 115 damage nerf. Rocket range, that is a 90 damage nerf, and then at shock pistol range is unchanged.
Fucking crazy though. Like that's a ton of damage removed from one ability.
It is, but if the enemy champion's within range to be hit by your zap, then there's no change in the damage.
Right. And that's not really that far apart for an ability that's supposed to be a snipe execute. Right. Her zap range isn't that bad. It's not like you're trying to hit an ash arrow across the map.
Right. So if they're just within the zap range, or further, then it's unchanged.
Yeah,
but it's not better.
But so zap is what, 900 to 1,000? Is that how long it is? I wish I could.
Zap range is max unchanged. I don't know. I thought it would say in that post, but it doesn't.
I got it right here. Zap is range 1,500. Sorry, it's longer than I thought. So zap range is 1,500.
It was pretty long.
But still,
So yeah.
If you can hit it with zap,
it also has a much larger hitbox than zap does.
Sure does.
So
it's basically after you've won a fight and the people are running away from you, or you're able to make some distance in between them, but people are still going to see a significant damage decrease, because I bet the number of players that are using this are using it at 1,000 range rather than, granted they're not using it point blank, they're using it at 1,000 range rather than 1,500. So they're going to lose damage on this.
The time people are using it in that auto attack range, that gray area, is during laning phase, during a trade, or just as a trade ends.
I see a lot in team fights.
Because during team fights, during late game team fights, if they're within my auto attack range, I'm just going to auto attack them. I'm not going to stop to cast my ultimate.
Or
I'm
if
going
you're
to
getting
kill them with auto
dogpiled.
attacks because I'm Jinx and I'm hybrid carry.
Yeah, or if you're getting dogpiled and you want to ability dump before you inevitably die.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm like, I like
it's
it.
It's a nerf.
I just think it's too much damage decreased for in an area where 80 carries are having a hard time already.
I think Jinx has got a lot of power in her kit.
I was going to say, at the same time, though, Jinx is still at the top of the heap for those AD carries that are having a problem. So, like, maybe this just puts her back slightly in line with some others. Oh, no.
They didn't hit her ability to just melt turrets with her chain gun. So right now she still has her niche, her place.
And I don't think that it makes too much of a difference except for in lane. Like, I really do think that most of the time, I don't know, like Punch said, Jinx is kind of like a Caitlyn. You want to almost avoid using your abilities in team fights unless you have a, specific purpose to do so. She just does so much damage with her auto attacks and, making sure that you get the right combo with her Q and making sure you get that attack speed that, throwing your R in the middle of that fight isn't going to make or break that fight by any means.
Sure.
And the ones who panic and use it now are just getting really punished. So.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move up here. We'll talk about Graves Buckshot. Q Buckshot damage reduced 60, 90, 120, 150, 180, 0.75 bonus AD from 60, 95, 130, 165, 200 with 0.8 bonus AD. Buckshot Q enemies hit with multiple bullets take 50% damage from each bullet, up from 40%. So they want you to be closer to the enemy, or they want you to hit the enemy with all of your bullets rather than smacking them with just the end of the bullet.
In other words, they realistically want to give him a shotgun.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right.
Serena trying to give some numbers, and it looks like a slight damage increase when you hit with all 3 shots early on. Mm-hmm. And I think that's fine for Graves. I mean, I don't think early on Graves got as much as he wanted from getting in somebody's face and hitting Q. He kind of wanted to get to like level
4.
Yeah, around there. Before it really paid off for him.
He did significantly more damage.
Because if you went in before like level 4, if you just quick draw it in and hit Q, then you probably just take more harass on your way out than from the buckshot.
Or if you were to use your quick draw to get in, and they had somebody like Nami who was able to land a bubble or something like that on you, your little dash to escape something is completely gone, and you're going to eat way more damage than you were otherwise. So, I mean, this might reward you being a little bit more aggressive if you're not getting, outplayed. But if you screw up and the enemy outplays you, grats on doing a little bit more damage for that death that you just received.
I was looking at the history for Graves, and that additional projectile damage has been pretty interesting. Because it looks like it started at 35%, and it's gone on a roller coaster from there. It went down to 25%, and now they've raised it all the way back up to 50%. So they can't really make up their mind how they want the additional projectile damage to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it makes sense.
This is this one right here that the Graves changes I'm not mad about. I actually like it because I always tried to prioritize all 3 buckshots to hit somebody because I just assumed I would do more damage. I mean, you're supposed to do more damage when you get all 3 with it. So it forces players to use the ability properly rather than getting a little extra mileage out of poking, which he's not a poking champion. He's all in or not.
And sometimes you get away with poking just because of the base damage. So
that's the thing too. And if you were able to get ahead early, you could poke on a champion that probably shouldn't be doing that. So, there you go.
Which is no bueno. That shouldn't happen.
Well, let's talk about Mundo here, and we've only got a couple more to talk about tonight, and that's Mundo. The big one here is that Infected Cleaver, now when it kills a target, you get the full health cost on the killing blow on a target. So if it costs 50 health, and you kill a target with Infected Cleaver, you get 50 health back, rather than half the cost.
Right.
Which is nice for Jungle Mundo, because I had a very hard time clearing with Jungle Mundo early, even with Spellvamp Quint. So you had to go back after 3 camps, and all the good champions, you could stay out there for almost indefinitely, without ever having
I would
to go
say
back.
some of the best champions you can stay out almost indefinitely. There are a couple like popular jungle picks that maybe not, but at the same time, like Mundo's early clear has always been sort of brutal.
It's atrocious.
And then
it's so hard.
When you get a couple items, it's just like, okay, I'm going to walk through this jungle and never worry about anything ever again.
Yeah.
But
I'll be honest with Mundo, if you're not running Spellvamp Quips and you're jungling, you're clenching up a little bit when you're playing through some of those camps. You're kind of like, am I going to make it through this?
The Infected Cleaver thing is kind of nice, but it's on a kill. Has to be a kill.
Yeah.
It's the other one that's kind of really nice quality of life. The Adrenaline Rush passive
it
and
just tells you how
sadism.
much life you're going to get back.
It tells you exactly. You can just look at it instead of trying to calculate, which you're not going to do with percent. You're just like, okay, bigger numbers are better. Now you can see, oh, cool. And nice dark orange, 9 health every 5 seconds.
I've literally never thought about how much life I'm going to get back. I've hit it and just hope to God it gives me enough life.
I
to
look
stay
at the
through
little
fight.
thing next to my health bar and watch it grow.
I will say it makes it easier to calculate things. Like it gives you that little extra bit of clarification you might want before committing to something. So that's good. Though realistically, I don't see the majority of the player base paying any attention to that at all.
What would be really cool is if the tooltip, well, no, because when you hover the tooltip, it's not real time, it doesn't change. I was going to say if the cost was changing as your health was changing. and it gave you an actual number instead of just 20% current health
Right.
cost of sadism. So you can evaluate.
So moving on to the last champion that looks like it's getting changed in 5.8 is Bard. We did have a very long discussion about Bard and how our thoughts on Bard. If you are new and you want to know what our thoughts on Bard are, go back a couple of episodes and we'll give you an earful on that one. But I think they're going in the right direction. I think Bard is slowly becoming that champion where he's actually going to be good. Like,
Eventually,
yeah.
as long as they keep shifting a little bit of power to him, probably.
Yes.
Current state, not huge fan at all. Don't like seeing him.
Let's look at this.
On my
Caretaker
team.
Shrine W. Looks like it now lists how many shrines are active on the tooltip, so you can see
Like
how many are
warts.
out there.
It's just
Just
a
like
little
this.
quality of life. It's nothing
Yeah.
big, but
So you
It's neat to
obviously
see.
know where
You
they're
forget.
at if you forget.
Where
yeah.
did I put those? Oh.
Cosmic Binding Q cast range increased to 1,000 from 950. Nice quality.
No, they reverted it.
They reverted.
Did they?
Yeah, they reverted both of
reverted.
those changes. So now the only
Wait,
thing
you
that they
reverted it
kept.
since we started talking.
Yeah. There's
yeah.
a strike through and it says reverted.
Oh, I must have loaded an old page. Sorry.
Yeah, so now it's just
worry
the shrines
live bells.
showing.
You're right. I just refreshed the page and there's my little strike through it. I must have loaded the page like a couple minutes before you guys did.
PBE for you. Tentative, remember.
Yeah, I mean, it's so tentative that it changes in the time we start to the show to the end of
Wait,
the
do
show.
I need to go
So
thugh this and make sure we refresh and make sure?
Yeah, let's go through again.
I already
I was
started
watching
through the
it.
moment that happened.
Yeah, I was reading with it. Nothing else major changed.
I agree with those changes too.
I know I like them. I was about to be like
I was
really.
so
I was like,
okay with
these are
those.
good
I
changes.
thought Q was a little hard to hit, and since that was, I mean, you had to hit that in order to have a successful skirmish.
Nope. He was uber OP in PBE.
No,
so
you know what's funny? They didn't need to revert this. They should have given it to him. I actually played against a bard the other day, and I tweeted out. I said I played against a bard who played really well for a bard, but that's it. He was still bard. He still did nothing for his team. Like he had some fantastic ultimates on us that actually turned the lane around. But at the end of the day, he's still bard, and it doesn't matter because you don't do anything in a team fight.
I still also want to say that if you go and look up something like pro builds on something like Bard. All right, so you know what? For fun the other day, like you want to tell? Should I tell the story, Adam?
Just make it no, but yes, but make it very
Vague?
nice. Yes, vague.
Okay. All right.
Don't give
So
names.
somebody brought up to Adam that Bard was potentially secret OP because and that pros are starting to play him or whatever. That's fine. Whatever. That's cool. And then I immediately went to pro builds and just typed in Bard, and there wasn't a single win on the list, which I thought was really, really funny.
20 games.
So I go back today just because I thought about that story and remembered me laughing. And there's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah, it's not up
7.
now.
There are 7 wins on this list. There is not a single game where Bard didn't go negative.
So you're saying he got carried?
That's I gotta say, most of the games that there's a Bard in, yeah, he might have a lot of assists, but for the most part, it's because somebody else on his team got real fed.
He needs a little love. He's so
needs-
unique and different.
He
Give him
needs
just a little
lot
love.
of love, but I'd rather see love added over time rather than so much love be added
Right.
that it's
That's what they're
just
doing
like-
too. They're doing little buffs that accumulate to nice packages.
That's how Chira's girlfriend feels. She wants love over time, not just all love all over at once.
Ha! You know what? If she
I
was
want to
so
roll with the bad
on
jokes
here.
tonight.
Yeah, seriously, I'd bring her on here to slap you down with a vengeance.
Tell Kayla I love her.
I will. Text her right now.
Does that pretty much cover all the?
That covers all the balance changes. Yeah.
Yeah, that covers the balance changes. We spent an hour on that. Let's have a little bit of fun here at the end of the podcast. Let's talk Chroma Packs since we have some viewers who want to talk about it. Do we all have thoughts on the Chroma Packs?
I want to ask. This
Color
is
changes?
the first thing I want to ask. Are any of you interested in buying a Chroma Pack?
No.
Not yet.
Right?
If I win RP,
Not with RP.
I would. Yeah. If with IP would be great. If I win RP and I have a RP to spend, I would rather use RP to buy a skin I want. But on a champion that you have all the skins for, on a champion that doesn't have many skins that you just really love your main, it might be kind of cool. Like Syndra, for example, she only has 3 skins, and one of them is just a car. So maybe her initial one you could change the colors.
Oh,
Her original
I
one's
like
Just
it.
a car.
I don't see what I don't understand about this is I probably won't buy any. I don't understand why people are getting so up in arms about it. Because if some people want to buy, it doesn't hurt anybody. It's kind of like a live and let live thing. I don't understand why people are so angry.
It is something that costs money if you want to buy it. Absolutely impacts you in no way if
like
you
skins?
choose not to buy it. So like, I don't see necessarily a big deal. Yes, part of the completion. Okay, I probably have the least skins out of everybody in the show, but part of the completionist in me is like, man, if they added a bunch of new different colors to Skarner or like any champion, I just use Skarner again as an example, I might be interested in getting something like that because that'd be kind of cool. At the same time, it's just a little bit of personal flair. If you don't like the base color of somebody, relax.
Go.
It's you know what I think it is though. It's because people have gone and played Heart of the Storm, and you get those colors. I want to say Smite does
Heroes
it
of the
as
Storm?
well. Heroes, I said Heart. I meant Heroes of the Storm.
You have to spend IP on Smite, but yeah.
Well, you know what? That's good because it's something that's not going to hurt Riot. It can make them more money, which they can use to make the game better, which they've been doing a great job. They have an excellent business model, and it's one of those things where people like, haha, Heroes of the Storm has this and you don't. Well, now we do. So
Well, it looks like Riot is introducing something similar to Heroes of the Storm and Smite with character mastery, where they're toying with the idea of giving these away once you achieve a certain character mastery. And that's what I'm more excited about with
That's
these Chroma
cool.
Packs.
Character mastery can be a lot
That's
of fun.
further down the line.
giving you ways to earn things without spending real cash is awesome. It's amazing. I
Well,
love
and
it.
especially too, if they turn this into something like you see a Chroma pack on like a Chroma skin on somebody, and that means something like, okay, they've played a whole lot of, and they show the Lucian, screenshots, whatever. That guy plays a whole lot of Lucian. He has the golden Lucian Chroma pack. Awesome. Like if you get in a game with that, it might be something like, oh, hey, we have a guy that's played a lot of Lucian. He's probably pretty good at it. That's cool. And the enemy it's a little bit of that psychological warfare. Shit, that guy has this color. He's played a lot of Lucian. Maybe I should be a little worried. Maybe
It's like,
should
it's like old World of Warcraft with the shoulders, the 2000 Gladiator or 2020 Gladiator shoulders. Like, oh my god, he has shoulders.
See those shoulders from across Warsong Gulch.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, holy fuck, you see that guy?
Yeah, he has. Oh my god, he has a 2200 shoulders. This guy's actually good. Like, I like that kind of stuff because he makes you respect your opponent a little more. And I was talking to Shira the other day. I said, if you guys haven't listened, if you haven't checked out the YouTube, Ricky Flores had an interview with I Will Dominate, and it was a really, really good interview.
It was a very solid interview, and I don't say that just because
you work for us.
Yeah, because I'm an unpaid volunteer for us.
Yeah.
But because it was actually a really solid interview with non-cookie cutter questions for the most part, which are
made him think.
Yeah, which are beautiful because I'm so sick of hearing the same goddamn thing asked a million frickin' times.
Yeah, but he talks about it in there, and he talks about other things. Is that shit? I don't remember my point now. I don't remember where I was going. Shira lost my.
Talking about shoulders.
It's about.
I don't
Adam, it's going to be about his mentality and how he smite.
Boom! There it is, mentality. Thank you.
I got you off track. I got you on track.
Yes.
Let's go.
It's because I Will Dominate about his mentality. It's because I was talking to Cheer about it. I said, I'm going to start taking his mentality. I Will Dominate says, I am going to hit this smite. He says that with every single smite, even if he's the only person standing around there. He says to himself, I am going to hit this smite. And Wild Turtle goes into a thing and he goes, this guy is better than me. And he gives the guy respect. And then he dominates because he's Wild Turtle and he's fucking amazing at ADC, but he still gives the guy respect.
I mean, if you go back to looking at the old video where Turtle is like, I look at every opponent that I'm in lane with and I play as if they're better than me. And I'm like, he says that and then he just pulls some crazy plays out where I almost have this feeling where you take that mentality and you're like, what's the craziest thing I can do that'll throw them off? And maybe that'll work. So
it's better than going into lane saying, "Oh, I'm way better than this guy. I can take crazy risks or I can do stupid things."
That's way better.
They're better than me, so I need to.
I need to play better than him. It works differently for each person because somebody that might go into a game thinking this guy's better than me might play too cautious.
And my point to Adam was that all of those mentalities are really great. The difference between those guys and the majority of other people are they have that mentality. And then when an issue comes up or they don't, let's say Dominate doesn't land that smite, that doesn't shake his confidence when he goes to land the next one. And that's the big difference between that kind of mindset. It isn't the fact that there's so many people that probably go into solo queue who are playing like some champion they think they're going to carry on, and then the moment they start losing, they start, kind of complaining in their head or making excuses or trying to figure out a reason why things aren't working, or they just keep trying to do the same thing. Like they're playing Riven, they died 3 times early, but they tried and kill the guy at level 11 when they get another spike from their ult damage because they're Riven and they think they should be able to 1v1 everybody. That mentality is not going to work, and you're panicking because you were losing. But the guys who are able to stay calm and they have that confidence to know that even if a situation goes bad, they can pull off something the next time without going crazy. That's what makes the difference.
Right.
I can
The
see
other
Chroma
nice
Packs.
thing about hearing Dominate say things like that is, for anyone who doesn't know like the backstory on I Will Dominate, like he got banned from like a year from LCS. He was really, really, really toxic on stream and games, like overall just incredibly toxic, really bad for the community, and he got banned. And instead of taking that and being like, screw that, I'm gonna go play a different game, this community sucks, anything like that, like he turned that whole mentality around from like concentrating on other people and what they're doing wrong to that mentality that he was talking about, where he's like, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to contribute in this way. I'm going to hit my skills. And it made like such a huge difference where now he's able to compete again and be like a force to be reckoned with again without, having that
Tilting and having that.
that toxicity.
And he broke the curse of fourth.
And
That's
it's
true.
because
Finally!
You
Oh yes, that don't steal Rundown's thunder. Or they already talked about it, so
You got
don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole the Chroma Packs, the colors, I can see strategically picking them based on the champion. If you can try to hide some kind of tell on a something that's active, like I don't know. Champions that you look at, like Kennen, for example, of course it has that sound effect that you listen for, but you can also see a little graphic when he's ready to hit you with that hard hitting shuriken, things like that. Maybe there's some strategy to it, but it's mostly
They have
where
to
it's
be
just looking
careful.
Yeah, I got to bring up
Most of the skins, though, that have those like advantages that are kind of almost pay to win, like the Frostfire Annie. If you have your stun up and you're standing in a bush on Frostfire Annie, the enemy can't really see it. It's really hard to see. The Eye Blitzcrank, the pull is really hard to see. One of the Lux skins, like her skills. Most of the times that the skins have like some sort of advantage, it's generally related to the particles. It's not nearly as much related to the skins. Although Blitzcrank is a good example. On his Boom Boom Blitzcrank, they've like looked into it, and it's actually easier for the enemy to dodge the Boom Boom Blitzcrank because his hand is like this big red boxing glove.
That's depressing because that's the only skin of Blitzes I have.
Right, so it draws
Good
more
skin.
attention, and you can kind of like but they're minuscule advantages. But I think that generally most of the time when the skins have an advantage, it's related to particles.
Sure.
I want to go back to what Horse Doctor said earlier in the chat, is that he's like, I'm just going to buy every single green skin so I can blend in with the map.
hide in the bush. Oh man, a green Garen skin? That'd be terrifying.
You'd never even see him.
Wait,
I died out of
I'm in the
nowhere.
bush. I still don't know if he's here. Oh god.
I still don't know he's there.
I think that they took that into account, though, especially when they did all that talk when they were changing the map about making the champions very, very definable against the map and how clarity is really important. I can't imagine that they're going to use anywhere close to the same shades. And
They're gonna take a step back. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's still, I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference.
I think it's cool. Anything that makes everything look neater and make you feel more proud to play the champion you love, it's great. If you want to spend the money, go for it.
I'm all for making money, okay? And if you come up with a really fucking awesome way to make more money that hurts nobody.
You're right. Not pay to win. It's not a competitive advantage. It's still dressing up Barbie, and it's a great business.
Well,
model.
that's exactly it.
No. Speaking of dressing up Barbie, if you want to dress us up, you can go to trinityforcepodcast.com/donate. Or
Optimus
teespring.com/tforcepoppy and dress us all up. Continue, Chira.
I was just gonna say, like, if it's that bothersome and like you're that angry about a company that produces a game for free trying to make cash on something that doesn't impact any power whatsoever over the course of the game.
The game I'm playing wants to make money. The company, right?
How
Like
dare they?
it blows my that just speaks to the entitlement of people thinking that
Right.
so much shit should be free when
Play a pay-to-win game and then
The
get pissed
actual-
off and come back.
the actual content of the game is free. Blows my mind.
Well, you know what? I think that's gonna wrap this up. I'm gonna start easing us into the end of the podcast now because we've said our piece. We've had people come and go. People have enjoyed this podcast, and they will continue to enjoy it as weeks to come, and as we continue to grow much larger. So, I do want to point out that if you guys were listening live, or if you were listening on the podcast, either way, that we are now being. It's not sponsored. What's the word I'm
Promoted.
looking for?
Promoted
By Twitch TV. We are being tweeted out now every time we go live by the Twitch esports channel, which has about 15,000 people. And we are going to in the next couple it was supposed to be tonight, but it looks like there was a games conference that actually took priority over it, so they didn't put us on the front page. It was supposed to be, but things happen. And
Still
that's
tweeted us.
we are going to be seen live on twitch.tv on the main twitch.tv here in the next coming week or so. So your favorite network of podcasts is finally hitting it big after 3 years worth of work. So
That's a
everybody
big deal,
continue to
Adam.
put it.
Good job negotiating that.
Yeah. Great
Props
job.
to Adam. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's been a road. So, but yes, thank you all for watching us. Thank you guys for sticking with us. It's been a hell of a ride. And if you haven't already, please go check out trinityforcepodcast.com because we did redo the website. Like I said, it's like a quarter version of the new site that has not going to look
It's
anything
easier.
like this. It's like
It's a slightly
site.
upgraded version.
yeah, it's something
We
that allows you
armored
guys
up
to
a
get the
bit.
information. Yeah, it allows you to get the information you're looking
It's a
for.
Chroma pack on the site.
It is. That's exactly what it is.
It's not quite the next skin, but it's a Chroma pack.
The community site, that's what I'm going to call it now. The community site is still coming. I know I said the end of this month we'd have something. However, unfortunately, we are about 3 weeks behind because of some personal issues that popped up. But it is coming, I promise. It's still being worked on very much so. I have a meeting every Tuesday about it. So God knows that I'm working my ass off. And I'm still waiting out there. If you're in the EU West and you want to help us out, if you want to run a battle arena or you want to run some kind of like tournaments or whatever it may be on the US, contact me, feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com. That's going to be it for episode number 200. Is this 55 of the podcast? Is that what I said?
54.
54.
Whoa.
And Chira,
Chira's not supposed to know that. You're supposed to know that.
The only reason I know it is because last
I know,
week
right?
I accidentally put 255 for a different show, and I knew that was the next episode because I have to delete it. So don't think this is going to be,
thing.
a normal thing.
Well,
I'll still
Punch-
ask what episode this is after.
Punch,
every
I
show.
need you to do me a favor. I think you know what the favor is, buddy.
No.
Take us
I have
out.
no idea.
Take us out. Come on, Punch, take us out.
Come on, buddy.
The gong.
Yeah, the Kong!
Go. Zillion.
Guys, that's episode 254 of the Trinity Force Podcast. We'll see you all next week. Peace!
See ya.
Bye.
Guys.
Later.